Some other woman in the bus asked across the aisle. So what's aisle? Write down it. It's a hard word for you. A long narrow passage is aisle. In a bus, in between seats, there are some spaces where people can go forward, right? Or just, uh, travel in between seats. There's a small spaces there. That's the whole aisle. Where are you going? These women folk are asking, very inquisitive, because these are new people, it seems, right? To the temple on Badri Hill. Answers. Ah, the right time to go, and you will be blessed with children. It's a very appropriate, auspicious time to go to the Badri Hill to make your wish. And definitely you will be having children. You will be blessed with children. Not to me, said Jagan's mother. I have enough. And they all laughed. Uh, the old lady is saying, the old woman is saying, no, no, I don't want children. I have many of them, right? And everyone laughed in the bus. And it's obvious, right? When there's a young lady sitting beside her, it's definitely they are going to uh, make the prayers, or to have the blessings, not for this old lady, definitely for the young lady. It's obvious, right? So that's the joke, and that's why they all laughed in the bus. A man sitting beside the woman leaned forward to say, if the God bless you, you may have twins. I know from experience. And they all laughed again. Suddenly a man who was sitting, these are strangers in the bus. They don't know these people. On its way only they came to know, and they are talking, right? And this man just suddenly leaning means just suddenly bending, tilting forward, and said, added to this, uh, if God bless you, now is the appropriate time to make a blessing. Now, if God is kind on you, if God blesses you, you will have twins. I know from experience. I mean, like I have been there too. So I have been given twins, right? Says the man. And the people in the bus started laughing again. One does not ask for twins, they are difficult to tend. We once had twins in the house of a distant relative, and the parents just went mad. Both the babies demanding food at the same moment or rejecting it at the same moment. Now, having twins, to be honest, is a pain in the ass, right? Don't be smart, and don't be using these kind of words or idioms, right? In an example, you'll probably be trouble. I'm just using this for entertainment purpose. That's it, right? So I have this poetic license for it. So we know twins are trouble. How are they trouble? Difficult to attend. एक-एक क्या घना रानी क्या क्या क्या? Right. It's like, imagine such a situation. Twins, there are some occasions ladies get triplets. And then the sequence goes on. Imagine this in such a situation. Okay, it's good. The point is like, okay, be kind, God. Be kind, but don't be too kind. දෙවියන් අනුකම්පා කරන්න වැඩි අනුකම්පා කරන්න එපා. ප්‍රශ්නයක්, right? Yes, one does not ask for twins. They are difficult to attend. And we once had twins in a house of a distant relative. A distant relative of these people had a person who had twins. And the parents went mad. I mean, simply they went mad. Simply they went crazy. They lost their mental composure. Both the babies demanding feed to feed at the same moment or rejecting it at the same moment. I mean, like twins are very likely to behave in the same way, but not necessarily. But anyway, in this case, like when both are hungry at the same time. If both are rejecting, both are rejecting at the same time. I shall be happy if my daughter-in-law has a child. Just says this mother, right? Jagan's mother is the one who's saying this dialogue. Says, no, two is too much. For a start, this is the first childbirth. One is enough. So, I shall be happy for my daughter-in-law has a child. The next following in the normal way. I mean, like I want it to be a natural childbirth. Are there the ideas like then you can ask, are there artificial childbirths? Yeah, I mean, like childbirth can have is a big subject, right? I mean, like if it's a cesarean operation, you can have a kind of a childbirth as well. In the context of medical complications and everything, you can they can opt to cesarean. Or when it comes to childbirth, even these tube babies are there. You can incubate artificially a child. So having a child nowadays medical I mean, like this field has enormous medical facilities and I mean, like technological advances that can help this. But that's not the issue here. Uh, she wanted in a normal way means a kind of a normal delivery of the baby, right? And there's another question. How many sons have you? Asked the woman, and they went into details of their family arrangements. So one asked, "How many sons you have?" From the crowd, the bus crowd. And so they have to explain like how many sons, things like that. Someone on the back seat, right? Everyone is just have something to add to this tale. Someone on the back seat was sick, and the bus. Yeah, now this case is different. Someone on the back seat of the bus was having a sickness, and the bus had to be stopped every now and then for him to lean out and relieve himself. Uh, yes, I mean, like someone is sick in the bus, so bus has to stop for a while so that person may feel a little bit okay, right? Maybe a fatigue, maybe kind of a some people when traveling certain distances are prone to certain sicknesses, right? Some guys are vomiting, some guys have these headaches, right? Uh, Different ailments. So now bus has to stop for him to relieve. Ambika has become the daughter-in-law of the house, sat beside Jagan's mother. So Ambika is sitting next to the mother-in-law, Jagan's mother, and that's the seating arrangement on those days. Uh, Beside his, and Jagan sat beside his father. Jagan was next to father, who had the business-like aspect of someone going on to negotiate a contract. So father was serious. Father is not uh, mischievous, so father is not engaging in any kind of joking activities or just engaging in these kind of dialogues. He's reserved, and as if in a business like a businessman ready to go to Badri Hill and have contract with God. Uh, it's like this is so reserved. That's the idea. Tata in a serious. Tata Budu serious. Hariya business men කෙනෙක් වගේ. He has to do something here. දෙයයන් වහන්සේත් එක්ක පොඩි ගනුදෙනුවක් තියෙනවනේ දැන්. contract එකක් ගන්න. අපි වල පූජාව දෙන්නවා අපිට බබෙක් දෙන්න. He's in that mood now, right? Jagan would have enjoyed his wife's company rather than his father's. And then Jagan sitting next to father feels like how boring it is just to sit next to father. I wish I could sit next to my wife company rather than, yeah. Jagan would have enjoyed his wife's company rather than his father's. But it would be unthinkable for women to sit with men. So that's not the tradition at that time. Unthinkable means it's not socially appropriate just to sit near each other, right? At that time. But now it's obsolete again. Right? Men and women can sit side by side, and after all, it's an equal society. Men has the equal rights as much as women, and women has the equal rights as much as women. Men to reach on the social hierarchy. So it's like there's equality here nowadays. So people can sit as they wish, right? So, but at that time it was little different. It's just kind of gender biased. It seems women has to sit with women, men has to sit with men. That's the normal, appropriate way of traveling. And Ambika had to keep her mother-in-law company out of courtesy. And of course, the girl, Lely, නැන්දම්මත් එක්ක තමයි ඉන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් නැන්දම්මා එක්ක කතා කර කර just has to keep the company while traveling. That's the normal way in this context. So that Jagan was forced to sit by his father, and Jagan is next to his father. It was a long seat running end to end below the windows. So this seat is a kind of a long seat. Imagine that seats in a train, right? They are particularly long seats compared to a bus. Right. Anyway, it was a long seat. This is a bus, and it was a long seat running end to end below the windows. On Jagan's other side, there was a man from the forest with a string of beads around his neck, holding on his lap a small wooden cage containing a mottled bird. Certain different people are traveling in this bus. And now we find on the Jagan's other side there was a man from the forest, man from the jungle, forest, with a string of beads around his neck. He has having this necklace, string of beads, small spears, small beads, small bubbles. He was having beads, right, around his neck. And on his lap, on the lap of this person, a small wooden cage containing a mottled bird. Mottled means kind of spotted, speckled. There was this like mottled, like dot, right? Bird. Kind of, with different colors, mottled bird. Which occasionally let out a cry, sounding like the doors moving on an ancient unoiled hinges. And this bird occasionally let out a cry. That's it, right? Sounding like a doors moving on ancient unoiled hinges. Imagine a door, old door, moving on rusty hinges without oil. Huh? How's the feel? If if you are in front of, imagine you are in front of a ancient door, old door that move on rusty hinges. Hinges are this door where the door moves, right? දොර අසව් කියලා කියන්නේ. මේ මලකඩ කාපු අසව් වල දොරක් පරණ දොරක් ඇරෙනකොට දැනෙන සනීපේ කොහොමද? කන් දෙක කීන් ගන්නවාද, right? Just that's the idea, right? Sometimes you get even your teeth starts to feel numb sometimes. Some sounds give you this kind of irritating feeling, right? Your mouth feel little numb. The sound itself make you so unpleasant and uncomfortable, right? There are certain sounds like that. When the sound is in a certain pitch, it is very uncomfortable. That's maybe the idea here. And these birds screech, these birds holler, the sound, the scream, the cry once in a while is something like that, right? So all these disturbances are in the bus as well. When it made this noise, it drowned the conversation of the passengers. I mean, like, it's too loud. It's too loud. All the other conversations are just below the cry of the bird, right? Conversation of the passengers. Quite 50 of them in a vehicle, expected to accommodate half that number legally, some with tickets, some without, for the conductor pocketed the cash and adjusted the records accordingly, for which purpose he was constantly pulling out a pad of making entries. So now is a very vivid description of the passengers in the bus. Imagine, right, people. Now Jagan's party has this all this small uh, things with them, and there are these people very kind of social in a way, talking, joking, laughing, enjoying the moment, enjoying the journey. And here is a stranger with a bird on the with a bird on a cage, right, and just making these high pitched shrills. And amidst all this, there is a bus, quite 50 of them in a vehicle, 50 people or something in this bus, where the actual capacity for carrying was somewhere around 25. Expected to accommodate half that number legally. It's an overpopulated bus. People are crammed, in other words. Some with tickets, some have tickets. Right. Okay, imagine now if this bus has accommodation for 25 people and there are 50 people. If 25 people have bought tickets, given tickets, that's the amount goes to the owner of, right, owner or just whoever, right? Uh, so they think, right, this is genuine. The bus has seating capacity for 25, and if the earnings are compatible are in rapport with this seating capacity, the earnings are equal, right? No one is bothered. Earnings are genuine. But have you ever thought, like, if you cram another 25 people more into the bus and charge them and doesn't give any tickets to them, but still charge them, and where does that money go? Kind of black money, right? uh, so the idea is like some with tickets, some without, for the conductor pocketed the cash and adjusted the records accordingly. Now you understand, right? Conductor is swindling some money, and adjusted the records accordingly, for which purpose he was constantly pulling out a pad and making entries. So he's just having these entries in his pad, right? Where it's a kind of a notebook, small notebook, where he's doing this cheating. So what is obvious is cheating, even in post-colonial India, is a very obvious business trade, right? Jagan was also cheating in a way. Okay. Say it was cheating in his own way by using not pure ghee and just reducing the quality of the ingredients. He's cheating. Now the businessmen are cheating. And here now we find the bus conductor cheating. Remarks, inquiries, advice, announcements, the babble of men's talk, women's shrill voices, and children crying or laughing formed a perfect jumble and medley of sounds, constantly overwhelmed by the shriek let out by the mortal bird. Just imagine, right? These people speaking, remarks, inquiries, advices, these are conversations, right? Announcements, the babble of men's talk. Babble means aimless kind of gossip, right? Babble. And women's shrill voices. Yes, bus එකේ ගෑනුත් විලාප ගහනවා, right? Shrill voices. And children crying and laughing. All these voices, kind of a perfect jumble mixed together. And a medley. Write down a medley. What is a medley? A musical composition series of songs is like certain music items together is called a medley. Yeah, the idea is like there's a lot of noises, right? So it's like a music. Imagine it's a musical with different pitches, different. So this assortment is there. This miscellaneous kind of a assortment of noises could be heard here. And above all, the bird was giving a high shrill cry as well by the mottled bird. Jagan's father was engaged in a prolonged conversation with the peasant on the right. So Jagan's father was having a conversation with a peasant, on the right. Peasant is a kind of a farmer. The person who's working on land is a peasant on his right, who was cracking groundnuts and littering the floor with shells. On the subject of manure and the technique of well digging. So Jagan's father is having a conversation with a peasant. Now this peasant had a very irritating habit. What was it? He was littering the floor with shells, cracking groundnuts. He was cracking some groundnuts, right? And littering the floor of the bus with the shells. He's just dropping it on the spot where he is. A very irritating, very disgusting habit, right? Is on the right, who was cracking groundnuts and littering on the floor of shells. So what was the Jagan's father talking with this man? The subject. What is the subject? The technique of well digging and the subject of manure. What is manure? Fertilizer. How to make fertilizer and this, digging wells. Those were the things Jagan's father was having conversation with this man. Jagan glanced up at his wife and noticed that she was tired. Jagan just, gave a look at Ambika, and so Ambika was tired. The noise and the rattle were wearing her out. And the noise inside this bus, there are certain assortments kind of sounds, right? Arkenara and portrayed here very well. And above all, the rattle means the shaking. The bus doesn't go smoothly, just like sometimes the train even have these rattles, right? So this bus had these rattles, right, shaking, and that made her really exhausted, kind of tired. Wearing her out. He wished he had her at her side. Jagan wished she had Ambika by his side, next to him, sitting next to him. He would have pointed out and said, "See those trees and those hills?" He wanted to show those hills and trees and nature, the beauty of the nature to Ambika. Aren't they beautiful? A kind of appreciation of nature. They are just, they are traveling from their familiar background, familiar household background, right? They are traveling away from Margaret cities. So he wished he could show the scenery to Ambika. I'm like, that's the kind of a male desire sometimes, right? There's even a single song, if you can remember. මාළගිරවියේ මාළගිරවියේ මට උඹත් එක්ක අපේ ගමට ගිහින් එන්න ආසයි මං දන්න කියන ගහකොළ මං පෙන්නන්නට ආසයි, right? Something, some kind of a parallels are here, right? So now, so Jagan wanted to say these things, show these trees and everything to Ambika, just enjoy the moment and ask this question, ask a kind of a question that sometimes, Jagan have this humor. Uh, are you aware that this trip is for your benefit? Jagan wants to ask this question from Ambika. ඔයාට තේරෙනවා ඇතිනේ අපි මේ යන්නේ මේ ට්‍රිප් එක ඔයාගේ හොඳට කියලා. And she would probably retort when someone says something like this, especially when it comes from Jagan. Ambika has this way of replying witty replies, right? Retorting, answering back. For yours, let us say, මට නෙමෙයි මේක කරන්නේ ඔයාට. I don't need a miracle to conceive. I am good at it. I am healthy. There's nothing wrong on my side. It's your problem. Ambika would say, right? Remember the group photo in our house? Can you remember that sisters and or that group photo? 103 members in our family. Can you remember that? So this is for you, not for me. Ambika would retort. Ambika would reply, right? So he's having this thoughts. He's having these fantasies inside Jagan's head, right? So as a matter of fact, Ambika is with her mother-in-law. Jagan is with father. Both are bored. Ambika is sleeping, exhausted. This guy is bored now, thinking like, oh, how good if she was next to me, I could have joked, I could have shown things. It was interesting, right? In other words, Jagan liked his wife's company, right? Even sometimes he sleeps outside. That's a different issue. Jagan wants his wife. That's why he's thinking about these things. Jagan feel happy in the company of Ambika. Jaganට නෝනව පේන්න බැරි නම් මේ වගේ දේවල් හිතෙන්නේ නැහැ. හරි. ජීගන් ආදරේ අම්බිකා. නැතුවත් පාළුයි මිනිහා. අම්බිකා නැති වුණාමත් ළඟ නිකන් ටිකක් අවුල්. Right? That's the idea. And then he would have teased her. There you go. Then Jagan would have teased her and pinch her back and forth, which could ended in a quarrel in her laughing over it all. So he wished like Ambika was near, right? Poddak konichanna tibbanam, right? Pinched her just little bit, teased her. Poddak vihilu kalla konichala kana mirigala. Just like අවසර ගන්නද? Then they would have gone to quarrel. They would just have this friendly love fight with each other, right? මල කෝලං මල සමයන් නේ. ඒකනේ මුන් දෙකොල්ල එකතන වාඩි කරලා තියන්නෙත් නැත්නම් පස්සේ. ගෑනු පිරිමි එකට තියන්නේ නැති එක හින්දා තමයි. යන මිනිස්සුන්ට මේ කෝලං බලන් ඉන්න බැරි. ඒක තමයි ගෑනු කට්ටියත් එක්ක වාඩි කරලා. පිරිමි කට්ටියත් එක්ක වාඩි කරලා. You understand the situation, right? So what happens if they were sitting next to each other? That may be what R.K. Narayan is suggesting us here indirectly. One couldn't say definitely, right? One couldn't say definitely. After all these years of married life, he could not really anticipate her reactions. And one cannot say definitely, one cannot be very sure about these responses between this husband and wives. After all these years of married life, between Ambika and Jagan, he could not really anticipate her reactions. He could not definitely or surely have an idea about how Ambika would react. Right? Sometimes she took things easily, with the greatest cheer. Sometimes she stung him and glared at him for the same remark. Sometimes when she is in a good mood, she will joke. with Jagan. And sometimes when she is little moody, right? Sometimes she stung him with glared him for the same remark. Uh, she replied back. She kind of hurt Jagan's feelings for the same joke. Sometimes for the same joke she may laugh. For the same joke, sometimes she may get angry. Even Jagan is married for like 10 years. Jagan can understand this psychological uh, vicissitudes, up and downs, fluctuations. Even as a matter of fact, men can't mostly understand it, right? ගෑනු ජාතිය මහ පුදුම ජාතිය, right? That's it. මේ hina වෙනවා ඊට පස්සේ ඒකටම අරගන්න. It's like these fluctuations are there. So as a matter of fact, it's not Jagan's problem. As a matter of fact, it's the problem of entire manhood, right? Entire menfolk. ඕක කසාද වෙද්දී හැම මිනිහෙම තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ජේකන්ගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් විතරක් නෙවෙයි. ඉස්සරහට ඔබතුමන්ලත් කසාද වඳින්න ඉන්නවනේ. මේවා දැනගෙන ඉන්න එක වෙලාසින් දැනගෙන ඉන්න එක ඉස්සරහ ජීවිතේ වැදගත්. The same remark. And she was a model of goodness and courtesy and cheerfulness generally. As a matter of fact, Ambika is a very nice girl. She was a model of goodness. She is very good sometimes. And very courteous. And cheerful. Very social. Very good. But she could lash with her tongue when her temper was aroused. But sometimes she has this temper. She gets very angry. And lash her tongue. Lash her tongue means like she used the tongue as a scourge. Diven kasapara denna diven. And she's angry. දැන් බලන්නකො තමන්ගේ ගෙවල් වල තාත්තගේ අම්මගේ සිටුේෂන් එක. අම්මා හොඳයි. අම්මා ආදරණීයයි. කොහොමද? මේ සමහර වෙලාවට අම්මා පටන් ගන්න පචං ගන්න. What happened to dad? තාත්තා එක්ක බුස්කාලා මාරුණා. දැන් පළාතක ඉන්නේ. කොහොමත් හොරයි අම්මා හරි හොඳයි අම්මා ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයි ඔක්කොමත් හරි. කට අරපු ගම සමහරවිට කට අරිනවා. සසර කලකිරනනේ ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට. සයිනසයි. It's a universal female trait. You have to deal with it. ඒකට පුරුදු වෙන්න ඕනේ right? මොකද ඉස්සරහට තමන්ට තමන්ගේ නෝන්ලගෙන් pay return එක එනවා. ඒකට ලෑස්තිලා ඉන්න ඕනේ right? So it's like a training. So don't take it roughly, right? So that's the idea here. I guess you got it right. So just to add to this, a few weeks before, now even this is flashback, we are in a certain situation where this Jagan is reflecting on his past, and we are going for another flashback. In this flashback, a few weeks before, father had complained that something was wrong with that sauce. It turned out that it was oversalted. Women folk cook and men enjoy, because men are the breadwinners probably in this household, and women take care of cooking and other domestic duties. And some weeks before, father complained that something was wrong with the sauce. The sauce. They just made it, they just cooked it. It turned out it was oversalted. It's too salted, right? They have added additional salt, lot of salt on the sauce. And on the spot inquiry was held. Suddenly, it was issue when father says that's salted, over salted. Immediately, an on the spot inquiry was held means they want to find out whose mistake is this. This cannot be. This is not acceptable. Cooking should have standards. On the spot inquiry was held means it's immediately made an issue here. It's an issue now. That's why they are called an on the spot inquiry. The mother-in-law demanded. The mother-in-law asked in a very authoritative, in a bossy way, right? Ambika, did you add salt to the sauce? Ambika said, yes, of course, mother, in a polite tone from inside the kitchen. So Ambika has added salt to the sauce. So maybe that's the reason salt is like a double salted now, right? I mean, like it's too salty. So Ambika has added salt, additional salt in. Mother was serving the men in the dining hall, probably Jagan and father. At daughter-in-law's admission, when daughter-in-law said, yeah, I have, of course, mother, I have added salt, in a very polite tone, she said it from the kitchen, right? Mistakes happen. It's a natural thing. Sometimes your own mom adds like twice the salt, sometimes by mistake, or sometimes it's too spicy, right? Things happen. Uh, and what happened? At her daughter-in-law's admission, she dropped the plate in her hand and went in demanding an explanation. Mother-in-law just suddenly dropped the plate in her hand means like she was serving the men, right? Immediately, just like a boss. බෙද බෙද හිටපු මේ එකත් සමහර විට මේසුලට දම් දාලා. It's like drop means, I mean like not, it doesn't break. Like dropped with a sound. It's like attitude, right? Ha! එහෙම කරන්නේ කොහොමද? දාලා හලලා මේසුලට, right? Yeah, for asking an explanation. When Ambika politely accepted that it was a mistake, then what she should have done is not just act like this very disdainful or snobbish way, but just, say just don't do it, and that's all, right? So when did she went to the extreme of displaying her kind of නැන්දම් වගේ show off එක දෙන්න නිකන් ගියා මේ ඒක නිකන් දාලා මේ සුලට මොකද and ask an explanation and demanding an explanation. Why? How can you do such thing? She's asking for an explanation. Who asked you to put salt into it? Asked the mother. And the girl replied haughtily in a high way, right? Girl also replied. She was not scared, it seems, right? He said in a kind of a haughty way, I don't know. No one said, I don't know, right? It was a mistake, in other words. I don't know. At which they heard the elder saying, and when Ambika said this, I don't know, the mother-in-law said, the elder said, you should not anyone have a sense to ask whether a thing already salted or not. ලුණු දාන තියනවද නැද්ද කියලා අහන්න ඔළුවක් නැද්ද? ලුණු දාන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඒක තියනවද නැද්ද කියලා කලින් අහන්න බැරිද? Salted or not? What's to happen when several hands add salt? What happens when you add salt, I add salt, several people add salt? What happens to the sauce? The stuff is fit for the street gutter, not for eating. You can't eat this rubbish now. It's only useful to the street gutter, means the only purpose left now is just to throw away the bloody thing. And this is how everything gets wasted and ruined in this house. I know how it all happens, says the mother-in-law. Right? I know how what all happens. Bring some more rice, said Jagan's father from the dining hall. Father just ordered, right? Bring some rice, more rice. In other words, father got the idea. මේ ඇතුලේ මොකක් හරි දැන් මේ මරන් කන්න යන්නේ දැන් ඈ. නැන්දම්ම ලේලි පොඩි මිස්ටේක් එකට මරන් කන්න යන්නේ තාත්තා කියනවා බත් ගේන්න in other words just to appease it, right? තාත්තා ඉතින් කන්න බැරි හින්දා ලුණු වැඩි කිව්වා. මේ ගැන මොනසකින් අම්බිගා මරන් කයි කියලා හිතුවේ නැතුව තියා, right? And that's why he's calling like bring rice, more rice, said Jagan's father from the dining hall. And Ambika took the rice and served the father, leaving her mother-in-law to continue. Just Ambika didn't pay any attention to mother-in-law. අනේ ඔයා ඕන දෙයක් කියන්න Ambika nicely went and served the father, right? She goes on. Nandamma යනවා දැන් පච්ච ගන්නවා, right? What is it? One doesn't ask extraordinary things. They are not for us. We are not destined to enjoy the spectacle of a gold waistband like hundreds of others, but one wants at least a sensible. Now the tone is taking us something different way. පටන් ගත්තේ ලුණු වලින් ඉවර වෙන්නේ දැන් gold band එක waist band එකයි එක එක කතන්දර වලින්, right? One doesn't ask extraordinary things. We don't ask like big things, formidable things from a girl. They are not for us. It's too much for us. We are not destined to enjoy the spectacle of a gold waistband. අපිට නම් gold waistband එකක් දකින්න ලැබුණෙත් නැහැ like hundred of others, but one wants at least a sensible and ... නන්දම්මට වාක්‍ය ඉවර කරන්න හම්බුනේ නැහැ. මැදදි වෙන්නේ නන්දම්ම කියන අතරතුර මේක වෙන්නේ, right? Sensible. She did not finish her sentence. Ambika was heard to cry. Ambika gave a cry, a holler, a high-pitched shrill. I don't care, and dropped the dish. Bang! අතරියාතේ තිබ්බ dish එක retired from the scene. Immediately left the scene. Dropped the dish. Bang! අතරියා. I don't care. මට පාන්ද කියනවා කියලා I don't care. And retired from the scene, went from the scene, disappeared from the scene. She shut herself in her room and refused all food, throwing the whole house into turmoil. No food. She's refusing food even now. Kyamat. And the whole house is in turmoil now. The house is disturbed now. අඩේ මොකද ඒ උනේ? උල්කාපාතයක් වැටුණා වගේ, right? It's a big impact. උල්කාපාතයක් වැටිච්ච ඉඳ තමයි ඩයිනෝසර් වල ලෝකෙන් වඳ වෙලා ගියේ, right? It's such an impact. It's even just like more impactful than the two atom bombs together, Hiroshima and Nagasaki atom bombs together. Something like that. The whole house is now in turmoil. Right? She complained that she was not feeling like eating. She said that she has lost her appetite. That was all. That's why I'm not eating. Later in the week, when the situation had calmed down, she explained to Jagan now after some times, the situation has calmed down. Everything became okay. Everything became natural. And everything followed the same old routine day-to-day chores, right? And at a certain extent, at a certain time like that, Ambika explained to Jagan. Do you know what I said to your mother? Why are you so obsessed with the gold belt? What has it to do with salt or sugar? There you go. Have you never seen a gold belt in all your life? Those are the questions the wife asked from Jagan, right? The Uttaradeep ko where- What? Why are you so obsessed with the gold belt? Like, why? What is the problem with the gold belt? Why are you so mad? Like so much into it, obsessed with it, crazy with it? What has to do with salt or sugar? What does salt or sugar has to do with the gold belt? What is the connection? Right? Have you never seen a gold belt in all your life? Asked the wife from the husband. Since that day, since that incident, right? His mother has been very sparing in her remarks, very careful, very thrifty. Avoiding waste means called sparing means very carefully she choose the words that come out from her mouth. Hmm? Golden belt. They had all along underestimated Ambika's temper. Ambika is a very nice, polite, very good girl. But if you put her patient into test, she can explode too. She can be very nasty like this as well as too. අහිංසක වගේ හිටියට ටිකක් ලිමිට් එක පැන්න ගමන් she's rough. That's the idea. And now we are still traveling on the bus, right, to the Babri Hill. The bus deposited them in a village at the foot of the hill. So bus stopped, and they just uh, let them get down of the bus. So R.K. Naran used these kind of words, right? Can remember the train station, Mali was dumped with the baggage. Now the bus deposited, kind of disembarked. That's right. Them in the village at the foot of the hill. It was probably the smallest village in any map, consisting of 2 rows of huts and a couple of wooden stands made it a packing case on which a little merchandise was displayed. Now, this is a very small town or a small village. All this village have is like 2 rows of huts, a couple of wooden stands made of packing case to which a little merchandise was displayed. Like, it's a small town. Is this a kind of a commercial town? Why? People get here, because they were just going to the Badri Hill for the worshipping and everything. People are selling things to the visitors here. That's how they make the living, right? You got this same feeling if you're traveling to Khatragam or Sella Khatragam, right? So many people make the livelihood out of selling things, selling goods, selling what you call this puja things, right? Flowers, incense, camphor, coconuts, fruits. So many vendors, right? The same way, but not to that extent. It's a small place, only 2 rows of this merchandise. Yeah, the mainly for the convenience of the pilgrims. There you go, going uphill. It is for the convenience, for easy purchasing out of for these pilgrims. Coconuts, bananas, betel leaves, and flowers were to be seen in this place. Mother was evidently tired after the journey and sat on a boulder to rest herself. So mother was a little tired once she got out of the bus of this long journey, right? It's a relatively long journey. And she sat on a boulder, means a kind of a big rock. It's a boulder. Boulder is not a that sharp edge or sharp, rough, jagged kind of a stone, but it's like a rock. When you go trips, you sit on certain rocks, right? That's a boulder. To rest herself, While father carried on the interminable negotiations with the coconut sellers over the price. Interminable means non-stop. It's like incessant, not ending negotiations. There, he's talking with the coconut sellers, right? About price negotiations. It's like maybe it's too expensive with the coconut sellers over the price, trying to beat them down, trying to reduce the price. Coconut is expensive here rather than their village prices. Why? Everyone is buying from here, right? Uh, Finally, he yielded. Finally, the father surrendered to these prices, grumbling, complaining, grumbling. Finally, he yielded, grumbling that these villagers were spoiled nowadays and had become exploiters of the worst kind, and flourished his fists in anger. I mean, like, father is really angry over the coconut prices now. It's too expensive for him. And he says, like, these villages are spoiled nowadays. They are corrupted nowadays. These people are not longer village people. They are like just like very exploited business people nowadays, and have become exploiters means obtaining exorbitant kind of profits are called exploiters. කියන්නේ මේ ගම් ඉස්සර අහිංසක ගමේ මිනිස්සු දැන් හූරා කන්න වෙලා හූරා කන මිනිස්සු බවට පත් වෙලා exploiters of the worst kind. And flourish his fist means like flourishing means kind of brandishing, putting, I mean, like waving in the air, and flourishing with his fist with anger. Right? Flourishing his fist with anger means like, yeah, kind of is angry, yeah? Just showing it off, right? We have come from 20 miles away. Should we not expect some consideration of our trouble? If I had known the price of the things here, I'd have brought all the stuff from home, he cried irascibly. Uh, Father is complaining about this coconut prices, right? We have come from such a distance as pilgrims here, and see how they are just treating us. I mean, like see the prices of the coconuts, right? So should we not expect some consideration for our trouble? I mean, like we come here just because we have troubles. We want religious solace. We want the blessings of the God, and don't they have kind of a sympathy or kind of a empathy towards our situation? Because we are troubled too. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙන ඉන්න මෙතනට එන්නේ. ඒ ප්‍රශ්න තියෙන මිනිස්සුන්ට මෙහෙම සලකන එක හරියද? ඒ මිනිස්සු තව ප්‍රශ්න තව වැඩි වෙනවා මේ බඩුවල ගණන් ගෙවුවා. කතරගම බාරයක් වෙන්න යන්නේ මොකක් හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙන ඉඳනේ. යනවා. සාමාන්‍ය දුප්පත් මිනිස්සෙක් යනවා කියන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ කතරගමෙන් බහැලා පූජවට්ටියේ ගාන ආපු ගමන් ඉන්නගේ ප්‍රශ්න ටික ඩබල් වෙනවා. පූජවට්ටිය ඊට වඩා ගන්න ප්‍රශ්න වලට වැඩිය අවුල් වෙනවා මිනිහ පූජවට්ටිය ගාන ආපු. Right? The same situation here, right? Expect some consideration for our trouble. If I had known the price of things here, I had brought all the stuff from home. Yeah, if I know it was this expensive, I have brought the coconuts from Malgudi. He cried irascibly, means he cried very ill-naturedly or very kind of angry, extreme angry. Exasperation is called irascibility, right? So that's the situation. So the suggestion is, in future, if you go Katragam, right? Katragam and gather in the Palatrutika, right? So you will not be fall into this Jagan's father situation. Mother interposed. Mother immediately intervened. Right now, there's a problem. Now husband is making a fuss here. Huh? Mother just interposed. From where she said, "That's not permitted. Custom requires." මේ ගෙදරින් පොල් ගෙනල්ලා ගන්න බෑ. එහෙම හරියන්නේ නැහැ. මෙතනින් තමයි පොල් ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි ට්‍රැඩිෂන් එක. කතරගම යනවා නම් මේ ගහෙන් පැපොල් කඩලා තව කොයින් හරි මොනවා හරි කඩලා ඒ වට්ටියකුත් අරන් ගිහිල්ලා එහි assemble කරලා දෙයියන්ට දෙන්න බෑ. එහෙන් අරන් දෙයියන්ට දෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි සිරිත. මේ මෙතන පිස්සු නටන්න හදන්න එපා, right? Just like something, that's what the mother says. Immediately intervening and says like, from where she said, this is not permitted. You can't do that. You have to buy it from here. Custom requires. The father is very angry. Yes, it was written in the Vedas 10,000 years ago that you must exploit it on the spot of earth by this particular coconut woman. Yeah. It was written in the Vedas. Vedas are religious books, right? I told you. Rigved, Samved, Sama, Atharvan, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharvan. These are the biggest Veda granthas or Veda volumes in the teaching. So father used this teaching, right? Yeah, it was written in the Vedas. Veda වල ලියලා තියෙනවා ඒක. මෙතනට ඇවිල්ලා හරියටම මේ වෙලෙන්දොන්ගෙන් ගත් අරගෙන බාර වුණාම තමයි දෙයියොන්ට ඇහැරෙන්නේ කියලා වේදවල ලියලා තියෙනවා. Yes, it was written in the Vedas 10,000 years ago that you must be exploited on the same spot of earth. You have to come here to be exploited by this particular coconut woman. True, he said cynically. Very true. He says something against his wife, right? And against everyone. He's angry now. Glaring at his son and daughter-in-law sitting on another boulder. Just looked at Jagan and Ambika. Now they are sitting together after a long journey. Husband and wife sitting on another boulder, hinting that if only people displayed normal fecundity, one would not have to buy coconut as an exorbitant price. අරුන් දෙන්න දැන් ඉතින් උන් දෙන්න අහිංසකයිනේ දැන් අරු ක්ලාස් උත් පාඩු කරගෙන ආවේ right ජේක දැන් මෙතන වාඩිලා තාත්තා බැලුව තාත්තා මොනවද කරන්නේ තොපි දෙන්න හින්දා තමයි මේ ඔක්කොම ප්‍රශ්න උඹලා දෙන්නට අනිත් ගෑනු මිනිසුන්ට වගේ සාමාන්‍ය විදිහට බබා හම්බුනා නම් මේ අක්කුන්ගෙන් මෙහෙම පොල් ගන්න වෙනවද බං just like something like that attitude right අනේ මේ කොහෙවත් තියෙන අහිංසකව දෙන්නේ the father's anger is focused on this innocent couple. Right? It's like he didn't say something, but the tone, the eyesight, the stare gave that idea. One would not have buy coconuts as exorbitant price here, hinting that if only people displayed normal fecundity, if people were naturally fertile, if it automatically happened after the consummation, why should we have bought this coconut for these exorbitant prices from this stupid coconut sellers, right? Jagan squirmed at the look with his father, kind of squirmed when father gave that look, right? Jagan squirm means kind of move in a twisting or contorted motion. Jagan look at right. Jagan squirmed at the look of his father and gave him and felt more impotent than ever. Jagan felt more impotent than ever. Impotent means like infertile. I mean, like the idea is like the impotent is a person who doesn't get, when it comes to masculinity, is a big word, right? A person who doesn't get his erection is called impotent, right? So anyway, Jagan felt very desperate here, right? With the father's look, but Ambika, at whom he glanced, looked defiant. Ambika was keeping her head held tight, while Jagan was right squirming when the father gave that look, as if ready to bring out the group photo of 103. Ambika නම් ever ready. කවුරු කියන්නේ මොනවද? She is not recoiling. She is not flinching, as if like she was so sure that she is not infertile, right? And so it's in a very humorous tone. the RK Narayan just entertain us again here.